Okay.
Excellent. Recording?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our virtual travel presentation. I'm so glad that you have all been able to take the time from your day to share this adventure with us. In this time of closed borders and closed borders and uncertain health, it's really nice to be able to stay in touch and with each other and to travel vicariously with the power of technology. My name is Sandra Romanauskas, and I'm a travel agent working for my home in Manitic. My agency is called Experience More Travel. I'm partnered with the amazing support of the team at the Travel Agent Next Door, and they make sure that I have the newest and greatest tools to serve all of you. Today, I am most honored to welcome Gary Armstrong from G Adventures to the screen. He's going to tell us a little bit about the company he works for, G Adventures, and to take us on a virtual tour of the Galapagos Islands.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you so much for the introduction. And yeah, thank everybody for tuning in and learning a little bit more about G Adventures, about what we do, the why behind G, the how, and then yes, we will travel to the Galapagos, a place that I had the very great good fortune to visit a couple of years ago with my family on a G Marine trip. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about all things Galapagos and all things G. So what I'll do is I will quickly share my screen so that you guys can see a little bit of what we're going to be speaking to today. And really just want to thank you, Sandra, for the opportunity to work with you, to partner with you. I'll talk at the end more about the benefits of working with a travel professional, but especially during these uncertain times, there's never been a better resource for you when it comes to answering questions about travel, about border restrictions, about the health requirements and visa requirements of getting into and visiting different destinations than right now. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to be here to talk about G, but also just to support our agency community, because I tend to say I don't cut my hair, and well, right now nobody's cutting my hair, but I don't do my own taxes, right? There's professionals who can help you with these things, and it's the same with travel. I mean, there's never been so many different options and ways of seeing the world, and it's great to have an expert support and opinion on that. So without further ado, hi everybody. My name is Gary. So I'm the G Adventures Global Purpose Specialist for Alberta, as well as Eastern and Northern Ontario. So I moved to Ontario in December of last year. I'm living in Port Hope and really enjoying seeing a different part of the country. I was living in Alberta the last 12 years prior to that, although I still sound like this. I grew up in the UK, and then I was working with G Adventures for 3 years out in Alberta before moving as well. So my role is to help our agency partners find more passion, purpose, and happiness in their roles. And so I work really closely with travel agents right across the country now to do events like this and to help them speak to their audiences and their communities about what it is that G Adventures does and how we see the world. So I do want to start by talking about the global pandemic. It is the elephant in the room when you're talking about travel. Right now, I mean, we have the 2-week quarantine for people coming back into Canada, and there's also border restrictions when it comes to entering different countries. And so currently, although we are operating a number of trips in Europe, and we're looking at certain destinations where we will be able to operate in the coming months, it's by no means our ability to operate in all destinations globally is heavily impacted by the current pandemic and the border restrictions and health requirements. So the good news is that this will not last forever, that it's a serious health concern, but there are ways that we're working as an organization, and there's ways that you as individuals are all working every day to make sure that we're mitigating the risks of the spread of COVID-19. At G, we want to ensure that people know that they will be able to travel with confidence, that we are putting in place different procedures and processes so that you can, go on a trip and see another part of the world and do so safely. So, be it screening information and a health questionnaire before you travel, a sit down and a discussion with our CEOs, our chief experience officers, that the guides who will be leading you through that destination, and have them not only explain about the culture of the place that you're visiting and some of the highlights, but also talk about the the health processes and procedures that are put in place in that destination that you're in as well. We're working on transportation. The great news about going to the Galapagos is that we own and operate these vessels. And so when it comes to creating cleaning regiments and things like this and sanitation, we have full control over that. We always use smaller hotels. You know, we are ensuring that we're working with small suppliers when it comes to sourcing food. So a lot of different things that we are doing as an organization to ensure that you can travel comfortably and safely in the future. And that if you are looking to book that future trip, that because of the uncertainty, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future, that we have that flexibility so that you can make changes to your booking for trips next year up to 30 days prior. So there's lots and lots of information about all this stuff. I wanted to talk about it off of the top. If you have questions about the ways that G Adventures is working to mitigate risk and ensure that we can operate safely as a business, then please do talk to Sandra. You know, she can be a great source of talking about the different ways that G Adventures and other travel companies are working to ensure that you are safe when you are traveling, but also to ensure that the people in the destinations are safe as well, because not everywhere has as strong and as robust a healthcare system. I mean, we're talking about the Galapagos Islands. There's, you know, not the same healthcare resources there as there are even on the mainland in Ecuador or what we see in Canada. So we need to ensure that we're all working together to protect each other, and that includes the people in the destination as well. So having said that, I really want to introduce the idea of why G Adventures operates, why we exist as a company, and that transformative power of travel. The reason that during this global pandemic, we are still impassioned about travel. We still want to talk about the benefits that travel can bring to you as an individual, but also to our global community. The company was founded by this guy. He's a Canadian. He grew up in Calgary, moved to Toronto to found the company. And Bruce founded G Adventures in 1990 on a simple idea, this idea that travel and tourism can be a force for good, that travel and travelers would save the world, that the travel industry is a fantastic mechanism for wealth redistribution. The industry takes some of the wealthiest people in the wealthiest countries in the world to visit the poorest people in the poorest countries in the world. So why can't more of the money that people are spending on travel, why can't that stay in those local destinations and lead to positive outcomes for the people in those places? And so G for Good is all the things that G Adventures does in the background so that you can go have a fantastic vacation, relax, enjoy, learn about the sights and sounds, culture and history of a place that you want to go and visit. And we will make sure that we are operating ethically as a business, and that by you taking that trip, you are having a positive impact. So I'll talk about a couple of them. The Ripple Score are responsible travel policies that we adhere to and have built over the previous years. And then our Planetera Foundation, the non-profit partner of G. And the Ripple Score you'll see on the vast majority of our itineraries, and it's a little number, a metric that shows how much of the money that you're spending with us for in-trip costs is staying in that destination. So what is the economic sustainability of that trip? And it's not G Adventures counting our own beans. This is a third-party organization that came in to audit our entire supply chain and generate a number out of 100 that shows you how much of the money that you're spending with us is staying in that local destination. So economic sustainability of the travel industry is always been extremely important, never more so than right now. And if you look at the ways that our communities in Canada are buying local, supporting local businesses to ensure that they will survive this, the impacts of this pandemic, it can be and needs to be the same in the travel industry, where we're working with those local suppliers to ensure that local people are benefiting from travelers visiting destinations around the world. We also have our responsible travel policies. So across all of our G Adventures trips, and particularly with wildlife-focused trips like the Galapagos Islands, we want to ensure that we have a robust policy so that by going and visiting this destination, there are no unintended negative consequences or potential harm from travelers visiting these places. So no tiger temples, no elephant rides, no shark baiting and diving, no dolphin experiences on any G Adventures trip. No way that our travelers will be interacting with wildlife in an unsustainable way. We also have our responsible travel policy around working with Indigenous communities. We work with many different Indigenous and rural and remote communities around the world, including Indigenous communities in BC. And so the idea is that when people historically have talked about mass tourism, over tourism, you think of Venice, you think of Amsterdam, you think of these, massive draws. But over tourism can also be vehicles and large groups of people, 30, 40, 50 people arriving in a village of 30, 40, or 50 people every single day. And so when we work with our Indigenous communities around the world, we ensure that they're able to tell their stories in their way, that we're not having any unintended negative cultural impacts by having that cultural communication between our travelers from all over the world and those Indigenous people and cultures in different places. And it's very important that we are proactive in this and ensuring that we're, speaking about these kinds of issues. And that's also, extremely important when it comes to child welfare. G Adventures was the first international travel company to be certified as child safe by the Child Safe Movement. Again, no way of interacting with youth, especially at-risk youth, on any G Adventures trip that could potentially lead to unintended negative consequences for those kids. So no school visits, no orphanage visits in any destinations around the world. If you have any questions about any of these different policies, highly recommend reaching out to Sandra because I love speaking about this side of our industry and ensuring that people know that, by traveling around the world, you can have that positive impact. And it is the responsibility of the organization taking you to these places to ensure that they are operating ethically and can answer those questions about these types of policies when you're visiting these destinations. So Planetera, Terra is actually Bruce's daughter's name. So it's Planetera Foundation. They work on the ground with individuals, organizations, NGOs to help provide historically seed funding, grants, and expertise so that local people can build businesses that tap into the tourist economy. We have over 85 projects now globally, ranging from hotel accommodation to transportation with our Women with Wheels in India. I'll talk a little bit about the project that we have on Floriana Island in the Galapagos as well. But Planetera is there to ensure that local people and local businesses are able to benefit from travel and tourism and are proactive. Currently, during the pandemic, we are providing grants and funding and support for essential services, medicine, and food for those projects, because with a massively reduced number of travelers visiting these projects, there's a significant reduction in their income. And so we're helping to support those communities through these difficult times as well. Please visit planetera.org if you want more information on what Planetera is doing currently to support those partners that we have globally, and what Planetera projects look like on our trips around the world as well. So, that's the why behind G. It's the reason we exist as a company. I feel that, these policies and this philosophy that travel can change the world for the better is the reason that G has become the world's largest adventure travel company. That doing the right thing and doing the profitable thing, that these aren't mutually exclusive, that you can do both, and everybody can benefit when we look to travel the world and do so in partnership with those local communities to ensure that they're benefiting as well. So what does it look like to be on a G trip? I've talked about why. I haven't said anything about what it actually looks like to travel with G. So what we do is small group trips. So 10, 12, 14, maximum of 16 people on most of our itineraries. It means that you're not waiting for 20 minutes for everybody to get out of the vehicle. Of course, there is intrinsic safety currently through this pandemic with having smaller groups. With our Travel with Confidence Plus collection, we're limiting the maximum group size to 12, so even smaller groups. But ultimately, the experiences that you can have with a smaller group, it's just a more intimate way of seeing a destination. Your local guide, your CEO has been, born and raised, lived in that place, and is just showing you their backyard. And there's no better way to go and see a destination than to have a local guide showing you around, and to be traveling with a group of like-minded travelers from all across the age spectrum. Although we are an adventure travel company, it's not just kids and backpackers who are traveling with G. It's not just hard adventure trips. We have different styles of travel for different types of traveler, and we have a broad appeal across different age ranges, and increasingly appealing to travelers in their 60s and their 70s and above who want to go and see the world and do so in a way that allows them to really have those culturally immersive experiences. And I talk about cultural immersion a lot. It's an easy thing to say. It's a difficult thing to describe when you're on a trip and have those experiences in places around the world. And that's what adventure travel is. So adventure travel is not necessarily sweating. It's not necessarily wearing a backpack or having hiking poles. Adventure travel is about learning. It's about exploration. It's about pushing your comfort zone just a tiny bit to, you know, go to Vietnam, a place that you've always had delicious food, or Thailand, or, you know, you think about these wonderful cuisines that we enjoy here in Canada, but to go and to have it in destination and maybe try some street food, to go and learn about the people, the place, the history, the culture, and to embrace the culture shock and learn from it, and also share your culture with the people in that destination as well. So for us, the adventure is everything that is different. It is the fact that potential, and it's whatever it is to you. It could be a longer journey. It could be, you know, going to a place where not a lot of people will speak the language that you speak. It really depends on you as an individual. And our goal is to allow you to meet people from all over the world who have that same desire to go and really be immersed in a different culture, and you know, learn the positive impacts and value from that. So, you know, we don't have brochures, or we don't break our trips down by destination. We do it by the style of travel. So how do you want to go and see that place? And I'm very close to speaking about the Galapagos and our marine itineraries, but ultimately just wanted to show you that there are lots of different ways of seeing this world, that the entire world is included in each of these different travel styles. That classic trips, you're staying in a hotel, not a hostel. It's a small, centrally located, locally owned business where you can check in and then, you know, check right out and go and explore the surrounding area. We do have 18 to 30 something trips for backpackers on a budget. We have active trips if you want to do those multi-day hiking, biking, kayaking experiences. But we also have our marine journeys and the vessels that we operate in the Galapagos, as well as the Mediterranean and around the world. We have our partnership with National Geographic, where we focus on even more educational content in partnership with that organization. We have our wellness tours if you want to go and relax and stretch and do some yoga when you're on a trip, and focus on food and yeah, the spiritual side of different destinations. And so, you know, we have a lot of different styles of trips in many different places, but I will narrow it down and talk about one really beautiful and special place that I mentioned. I had the great good fortune to go and visit the Galapagos Islands. And so the Galapagos, the Enchanted Isles, a place that before I started working at G Adventures, it never crossed my mind that I would have the opportunity to go and see what Darwin saw, to explore this unique part of the world. It's part of our marine travel style. We have expeditions to the Arctic regions as well, to the Arctic and Antarctic. We have a few river adventures and our small ship sailings. But the Galapagos Islands is something very special. And I'll show you this map. So there is no bad time to go and visit the Galapagos. It's equatorial, so the weather is always beautiful, and the wildlife is always there. So there are seasonal changes where if you want to see hammerhead sharks, or if you want to see, you know, the different types of whales that go through, then there are certain times of year where those migratory animals, the albatrosses, will be there and nesting and traveling. But the wildlife, the endemic species on the island, you know, the tortoises, the blue-footed boobies, you know, the different types of seal, the Galapagos penguin, the Galapagos shark, these animals are there year round, and they do not care that you are there. I've never been to any place where animals were so disinterested in humans than the Galapagos Islands. And so when you're on the islands, you do need to abide by their restrictions of staying more than 2 meters away. But I mean, the joke is that nobody tells the animals that, and you know, they will attempt potentially to come a bit closer. But for everybody's health and safety, and also, yeah, for the protection of the wildlife, you do need to try and remain those 2 meters. Although I had a Galapagos hawk that we were taking photos of jump out of a tree and fly directly into my camera and over my head. And so, you know, sometimes it can be hard to maintain those distances. But it's amazing to see almost a world prior to humanity, because the animals they just don't really care you're there. So the islands themselves, we tend to break them down into different clusters. The central islands of Santa Cruz, Santiago, and the smaller archipelago is where the main airports are. The vast majority of our itineraries will start there. You know, the East Islands, you have a lot of you know, weathered volcanic activity and different types of wildlife. The Northern Islands, Genovesa, is known as Birders Island. So if you are a birder, then absolutely recommend itineraries that will include the Northern Island. It tends to be a little bit rougher. If you are going to hit a little bit of choppiness when you're in the region, I do recommend taking seasickness pills just in case. We had really great, calm, flat seas while we were there. Then that distance between the Central Islands and the North Island is where the stronger current is. And so that's where you're potentially going to see a little bit more of a choppy ride. The Western Islands are the youngest islands of Fernandina and Isabella. You can hike the sea or walk to the Sierra Negra volcano while you're there. Although the wildlife is really spread throughout, there are different places where you will see more of certain types of wildlife. And if you want to see a flightless cormorant, the only place you will see it is on Fernandina and Isabella, because it's the only areas that animal it lives. So there's lots to do and see, and I've been talking about the wildlife. It really is a major draw to be there. On all G Adventures trips, our goal is to get you out and exploring and seeing and doing. And so you will be off the vessels more than you will be on them, snorkeling in the water, snorkeling with the sea lions. I've heard stories of travelers who've learned to swim in the Galapagos because it's extremely calm, placid water, and the abundance of the wildlife is just amazing. It draws you in. So everything from, the schools of fish to the Galapagos penguin, which is the smallest breed of penguin on the face of the planet and endemic to the islands. The lazy sea lions that, are lounging on the beaches during the day, but if you catch them in the water, they are extremely fast swimmers and will be swimming circles around you while you're there. An abundance of bird life, from the flamingos to the Galapagos hawk, as well as, the diversity. It's not just the Galapagos finches and those animals that are endemic and the blue-footed boobies. There is just such a variety and a biodiversity on these islands that I definitely recommend taking your zoom lens with your camera because you are going to need it to get up close and personal with these animals and just get some beautiful shots and learn from your guide, your naturalist guide in the region about the conservation of wildlife, the balance between travel and tourism and conservation, and there's no one better to learn from than somebody who has lived and worked in these islands for the entirety of their lives. And so there's many different ways of seeing the Galapagos Islands with G Adventures. We do have a few small ships. The newest is the Reina Silva Voyager. So she is just being built and will launch as soon as we're able to start operations in the Galapagos Islands again. And so it is the most comfortable way of traveling with G in the region, and it is at a higher price point due to that. She'll sleep 18, but there will only ever be 16 people on it. We have solo cabins on there for travelers traveling individually. There's a jacuzzi on board. It is really nicely appointed. It's a catamaran, so that the hull of the ship is a dual hull, so it's a little bit wider, more spacious. And it's also a little bit more stable because you've got that dual hull setup. Now, all of our vessels are small. They all max at 16 passengers. So again, inherently less risk on a small vessel. And we have control over the policies and sanitation of these vessels. And safety is always our number one priority as an organization. But ultimately, this is going to be a really beautiful way of seeing the islands. We do have two other vessels that we operate in the region and have done for a number of years. The Eden is a little bit smaller. It's a little bit more cost effective. You can see there's bunk bed options there. And so for solo travelers families, people who are happy sleeping in different bunks. But it's a beautifully appointed ship and there's lots of outdoor space. So on all these vessels, you'll notice, you can walk around the entire outside. You've got the top deck as well as the back of the middle deck and the back of the main deck to explore and spend time in the sunshine and relax while you're in the islands. We also have the Elita. She is an upgraded vessel as well, very comfortable. And again, a lot of outdoor communal areas, a lot of space. Because she's one of our upgraded vessels, each of the cabins is just a little bit larger. And then we have both twin beds and also twin singles as well for when you're traveling through the region with us. Personal chefs or chefs on board each of these vessels, cooking locally sourced food every day. The food in the islands is fantastic. If you love fresh fish and seafood, you will be very happy. If you have any dietary restrictions, let us know. There was somebody on our vessel who was allergic to shellfish. And so, we just made those different dishes for that individual and ensured that everything was kept separate. And they had a fantastic trip. So if you do have those food restrictions, let us know, and we will make sure that you are well cared for and well fed while you're there. The coffee, I should mention as well, is amazing because, you know, you're just off the coast of Ecuador. And so 24/7 hot coffee, it sounds like something small, but it is so delicious. And it's, you know, for me, one of those highlights of being there. But ultimately, it's the wildlife, it's the landscapes, it's the learning about the geological processes that have created this this unique part of the planet and led to you know, the creation and the diversification of wildlife there, and the massive number of endemic species that only live in this part of the world. So and this particular island chain. And so a wonderful place to learn about our natural habitat of the world, but also those places where humanity and wildlife meet, and how we can work together to ensure that that is beneficial for everybody, you know, versus just seeing it as a, you know, an opportunity to exploit natural resources. So a beautiful part of the world to visit, lots of time on the land as well, not just time in the ocean, the chance to see the land animals, the fauna and the flora as well. When you're transferring from the vessel to the land, we all jump in these little pangas. So it's an inflatable ribbed vehicle that, you know, gets you to the shore. And it's, yeah, easy to get on and off. And then lots of support when it comes to snorkeling as well. We have wetsuits, snorkels, all that stuff is provided. But also, if you don't want to go in the water, you can enjoy your time on the vessel or ride in the panga with the guide and your CEO and learn more about, you know, what's above the water as well while people are swimming too. So, you know, if my hope is that that we're still able to talk about travel, we're able to talk about the benefits of travel to local communities as well as individuals. We do have the opportunity for travelers to book their own bubble. So if there's 80 different G Adventures itineraries where you can, you know, band together with, you know, 7, 8 plus of your family or friends and have a private group. So a group of just you and your friends or family to block space on any of those 80 different G Adventures departures and to see some extremely affordable pricing and some price breaks on those trips as well when you're doing that. But ultimately, I mean, the best person to speak to learn more about the Galapagos Islands, the different destinations that G Adventures travels to, the different ways that you can see those, be it through regular open groups or private groups of you, your family, or your extended family and friends, is to talk to Sandra, is to talk to your local travel agent. I've spoken to the benefit of supporting local businesses. It doesn't cost any more to book a G Adventures trip with your local travel agent than it does to book directly with us. And especially during these times, there's such a wealth of knowledge and support to you as an individual at no extra cost to go and speak to Sandra and to work with a local partner. So I really want to thank you for the opportunity to come and speak and talk about the Galapagos. I love reliving my time there and trying to just give people a little bit of the wonder and excitement that it means to go and visit this part of the world, or really any part of the world that you've always dreamed of traveling to. And even though right now we're pretty much all grounded, that's not going to be the case forever. And we are working as a society, as a global community, to solve for this problem that is COVID, to ensure that we're mitigating risk of transmission and protecting people's lives and health and safety. But we need to remember that the rest of the world is still out there, and by, you know, going and visiting these places and learning that everybody is impacted equally by everything that happens in the world, it's a valuable lesson to learn, and you can do it just by going and seeing a place that you've always wanted to travel to. So really want to thank you, Sandra, for the opportunity, and thank all of you for tuning in, for learning more about about the Galapagos, and about experience more travel with Sandra.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gary. I do have one question for you. For people that don't want to spend their time on a ship, I believe that G Adventures also offers land-based tours for Galapagos. Did you want to speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a number of land tours. We also have a family trip, so a trip based on the land where you, it's designed for families. So kids as young as 6 can go on that itinerary. And so with the land itineraries, the best way to get a robust discussion going between two people at G is to ask which is better, like Galapagos on the land or Galapagos on the water. I went on the water because, for a number of reasons, but with the land itineraries, you're staying at locally owned hotels, or if it's an active trip, you're staying at local campsites. It gives you more time to explore the towns and the cities and to meet with the people who live in the Galapagos Islands. When you're on a vessel, more things are taken care of. It's a higher initial purchase price, but all your food and meals and things are included. On the island, food is relatively expensive because pretty much everything needs to be shipped in. And so you have slightly higher meal costs, but really it's just personal preference. When you stay in a hotel, you can go out, you can have a beautiful meal. You can, look at and explore the town and the area that you're in. When you're on a vessel, you get to hear the waves and the rocking of the ocean. I would say with both, you have ample opportunity to spend time in the water and ample opportunity to spend time on the land. As far as the day-by-day itineraries and the balance between, walking through the landscape or swimming through the seas is very similar. It's just a matter of, do I want to be sleeping on my floating hotel, or do I want to be staying on the islands and experiencing more of the culture while I'm there? We have both options, and when you're transferring between, say, the Central Islands to Isabella or up to Genovesa, we're using local, basically speedboat operators that get you from place to place. One of which was a previous CEO of ours who wanted to start his own business, got seed funding from, one of our Planetara supported organizations, and was able to start that business and start taking our travelers from island to island. And so I didn't mention Floriana and the work we do there, but partnered very closely with the very small community of 100 and 150 people who've lived on Floriana for generations. A very interesting place, really interesting human history on Floriana. And then, lots of travelers were coming and visiting that island, but nobody was really staying, and it wasn't really impacting the local people who lived there. So we worked with them to build local homestays for those travelers, and also to help them with creating experiences. So kayaking and walking tours while you're on Floriana that are run, hosted, and support that local community. So the benefit of our land tours is that, you have the chance to go and learn about what that looks like, what community-based tourism and building that infrastructure looks like by talking to the people of Floriana and asking them, what's it like to work with G Adventures? What's it like to work with Planetara? How has this type of tourism, impacted you, your family, and your community? So yeah, there's a lot of things to do and see in the Galapagos Islands. I was there 10 days, and it's just, I would have loved to spend more time there, and I would love to have the opportunity to go back. You can either arrive in the Galapagos Islands and we can start our trip from there, or the vast majority of our travelers will start their trip in Ecuador, in Quito. We use a franchised local Hilton hotel there, which is amazing, in a very, very safe part of Quito. And again, to spend more time in Ecuador is something that would also be amazing to do. We had a few extra days pre and post. I definitely recommend a little bit of time, either when you arrive or before you leave, just to get settled in. The difficulty with Quito is it is at altitude. So, it's, if you can talk to your travel doctor, find out about the different things you can do to help mitigate the symptoms of being at altitude. But it's such an interesting and beautiful city. But that's for a different presentation.
Well, again, thank you so much, Gary, and thank you for everybody who is watching this. I hope you are as inspired as I am now to get down there and see all of that for yourself. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay.